Hey, Carla, are you there? You're mute.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Thank you for a reminder. Oh my God, I was like panic. Oh my God, if we can't do it. So, I always have challenge with the PDF. Can we do a share? I want to make sure it works.
Oh yeah, hold on. Let me actually give you the right to share. I'm glad you said something. Okay. All right. Okay, you should be able to share.
So when I do share, I go to this Zoom area, right? I do share.
Under the bottom, if you hover, you should see a share button. This
Right.
screen. Yep.
But how I can make it as a full screen? Is this one here?
I normally use that where your pointer is. I normally use that, but let's see what happens when you do it.
And then actually I have my other computer connected as showing here as full screen, but not here.
Huh.
So I'm not sure.
Oh, it's connecting to that. It's connecting to that screen. There's a way. Hold on. Let me look at your options here.
Are you able to see the full screen, or you're not able to see?
I see the I see like the slides like 1, 2, 3 down the side.
Right.
I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but let's see.
Huh. So maybe I can unplug from the setting, huh? The page.
There is a way though. Somebody had shown me. Oh, try this up at the top. You see the same looking thing. It's at the top in the orange part of the bar. If you go over like 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, that's what I saw. You had it right. What did you do? You had it for a second. What'd you do?
I unplugged my connection. I just using my laptop only.
Well, that worked. I'm like trying to figure out some complicated
Such a challenging. Oh my goodness.
Well, there it is.
Okay.
It looks good though.
So they, thank you.
Yeah.
Good morning. Good evening.
Whatever it is, right?
I did not add the other stuff. I only added some information regarding the sales tax. So,
okay,
measure D. That's what I add, and then I can tell them how much left. That's pretty much it.
Okay, that's fine. We can talk through it.
I think it's so. Okay.
Hello.
So otherwise,
so
pretty much the
is that
same.
the last slide? Go all the way to the end for me. That's and there one more there. Okay, good. Go slow back. Go before questions. Okay, back. Okay, now hold on. So I don't know why it's jumping around so much. So just go to back to revenue options. I just want to see just so I can get it back. Go back. Keep going back. Keep going back. Keep going back. Back. There we go. Okay. So slow. No, you had it. So those are, so you're putting those in before we talk about new revenue options. So they understand that this is the capacity we have. So
right.
Go forward one. Where's the one that shows? Go back one. There, right there, back to the towns. There we go. So we don't know. So you didn't do a slide showing what all the other towns, where the other towns are at, but we can.
Right here.
There it is. Okay. So there we go. Okay. So that shows that a lot of people are at 9. Nobody's over 9, but the possibility is to go to 10.25.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good. That's really what I wanted to see. So, right now, if we wanted to talk about measure D's renewal, this is the sort of bracketing I wanted to see. So that's great. Okay.
Is your slideshow moving because you're using your mouse, like you're using the wheel on your mouse, or?
Are you using the arrows? The arrows are very smooth. The arrows, okay.
Okay, all right.
Using arrow. So here showing, for example, we have, even though we have 3% room, but like 1% already taken by Transportation Authority, SMART, and open space, right?
I love that slide. I think that's a very telling slide. That shows that other agencies can come in to take the rest of our capacity.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
So so now we only have 0.5. We have some room there before everybody else grab it. So
Right, but then so go back to the. I'm just trying to get you to go back to the where it shows the there it is. No, sales and use tax. Back to the one you were just on. So from 7.25 to 10.25, what does that represent?
so basically all the baseline is 7.25.
Okay.
Then you have room to add, go to 10, 20.
Gotcha. Okay, and that showed the.
Yes, I
and-
heard about
Yeah,
that.
he was a legend. He really
Yes.
gave a lot, So, but I had no idea he was still living. Like,
You see, you
whoa.
kind of you kind of almost forget,
Yeah.
like it's like really because they are in retirement home, and
Exactly.
here is Forrest.
Hello.
Forrest.
Hello. And Alexi, okay, so we are getting there. Hello. Just making sure give you a few more minutes. Well, actually, it's not even 6:30.
Right. We're all eager beavers.
Hey, Laurie.
Hello.
Hey, Lori.
Hey, Dave. How are you?
Good. How are you?
And
Hi,
Richard
everyone.
is here. Well, we're getting.
Hello.
Hey, Richard.
Hey, Richard.
Hi. Hello, everybody.
Right.
Is that tea you have?
Yep. Herbal tea.
Have
Not
my
really.
English breakfast tea,
No,
my
you got the
LaCroix, everything. Okay.
Green tea.
Wow, you got some caffeine going this late. You guys are brilliant.
Ice water.
There we go. Yeah, I got nothing.
And we have Eric. Wow, everybody's even
Oh, look at
before
that.
on time, which
So
is
that
like
everybody-
it's 6:29. We could go in the. We're not yet. We need to wait 6:30.
We do need to wait to 6:30, but I think that's everyone, which is great.
Yeah, and I understand that Ford will not be able to join us this evening, right? He's okay.
Correct. Yeah.
He sent his apologies. Okay. And we might have some public. We never know.
Never know.
You never know. Public, you're welcome. Meet everybody. Okay. So I think we can get started. What do you think? Yep. So,
Yep.
okay. So I called the February 25th Financial Advisory meeting to order. So first of all, I would like to welcome Alexis to our team. That's the first time you join us, right? Okay. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you, Marie.
This is the committee to be on, so I'm glad you joined us. Forget about this other things going on. This is a cool thing.
I binge watched all of your previous meetings, so.
So thank you. Thanks for being here. So before we get into the core of today's meeting, we received the minutes about half an hour ago for the meetings of November 12th and December 9. I had a chance to read the minutes. Did you have a chance to read the minutes? Okay, we are okay with that. So I would like to call a motion to approve the minutes of November 12 and December 9 meetings.
I can't make the motion this time because I wasn't at one of them. for the
Okay,
whole-
so who can make a motion? Who wants to make
Somebody
a
else.
motion? Okay,
Well,
okay.
make a motion.
Richard making a motion. Thank you so much. Who wants to second?
I'll second.
I second. Okay, thank you, Stanley. So I'm going to call out our names so that we're recording that. So Richard,
Yes.
Stanley, yes, Forrest.
Yep.
Okay, Eric.
Yes.
And Laurie, you excuse yourself, and myself, yes. You have it's all recorded. We're good. So let's move on to the next discussion item, and there was quite a few. So why don't I pass the mic back up to you, Dave, for this evening presentation and discussion.
Okay. Did we do public? Hold on. Let me forgot to pull the agenda up. Is there public input? Is at the end of this agenda? I don't have it in front of me, unfortunately.
I have the agenda. We
I
don't
don't
have,
see it.
no, I don't see it there.
Okay.
We could do it at the end, or we couldn't do it.
No, it's not on there at all.
No.
Actually, I'm looking at the
Okay,
last one.
that was
Yeah.
an oversight. Why don't I see that there's 2 people in attendance? Why don't
Okay.
we see if anybody is interested in? They're both staff members, but that was an oversight on our part not to include a open time for public discussion. So why don't we insert that right here?
Okay, so here we go, and inserted right now in our agenda, public comments. Is there anybody who has any public comment for us this evening?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, so now let's move on to the next piece of our agenda, which is presentation and discussion with you, Dave and Helen. Dave, you
That
want to take
sounds
it
good.
from here?
Okay, well, thank you all for, for coming tonight, and I appreciate everybody being so prompt. So tonight, and we discussed this in the fall, tonight what we're going to focus on is basically revenues, and we're going to kind of go through, you've already been, I don't want to be too, too over dramatic about what we do get, but we're going to go through the revenues that we're currently collecting, and we're going to show you that sort of pie, and this is all the ways that the town does business. It's through taxes and fees and all those things. Good. We'll do another deep dive on that, and then we'll also show how we currently expend those kind of dollar for dollar in the general fund. But then really what I want to focus on tonight is what revenue enhancement options are there out there at our disposal. So as you've seen, if you looked at the PowerPoint, we've kind of pulled out, all the ones that we are aware of, and this is a great time to have someone like Richard Berkson here with us. We think we got all the possibilities, and we can talk about the merits of each one, and we're hoping to walk away tonight with you, giving you a really good idea of what those options are. We can talk about kind of what's been successful in San Anselmo in the past, what's coming up for renewal, the whole ball of wax. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Helen, who has the PowerPoint, and she's going to walk us through those initial parts that I mentioned, as in what revenues we get now and what expenditures we have. So if Helen, you want to share your screen?
Sure. Are you guys able to see the screen?
And Dave and Helen, would you rather us ask questions during the presentation, or we hold on until at the end of the Helen presentation? What's your preference?
I'm actually, and Ellen, you're going to do the beginning of this. I prefer to get them as they come, so they're fresh in your mind. Yeah.
Okay, so let's kind of have that going on. Okay, thank you so much for clarifying. Yep.
Good evening, everyone. Here we talk about the revenue options, for future for the town. So I already sent the PowerPoint presentation ahead of time. We did add a couple more slides in the presentation. So this slide is going to show you the town current revenue resources from general fund. I took this information from our 2020-21 budget. This is the budget figure we have. So for the town, pretty much we have a majority, 77% is from property tax. And the second large revenue source is sales tax, is about $1 million, is 6%. And the town also receive franchise tax, such as from the Marin telecommunication regarding like phone services, franchise tax, and also garbage collection franchise tax from Marin sanitary services. Sorry. The town also have business license tax. I think in the past, our average collection about 220 to 250, but last year because of COVID-19, we are projected our business license tax going to be low. It's about $180,000. So and the town also collect different permit for construction related, and then we also have funds which is related like a vehicle code violation or parking violation, those types of things. At the same time, we also receive some state revenue, such as mandate, some reimbursement. This piece is kind of small, is more operation related state revenue. The town also receive fee for services, the service we provided, like plan check, planning, general plan related fees. Then we have miscellaneous, we have transfer in from gas tax or from recreation department for pay their unfunded pension liability, the small portion for their share. So for the general fund, we're about $6.5 million. That's our revenue sources and where they come from. That's basically showing the percentage, how much, as a total, you can see from this pie chart, property tax is the majority of our revenue. So we are really heavily rely on property tax. Beside the general fund revenue, we also receive other fundings, such as Measure D is part collects through the sales tax as a 0.5%. Our average collection is $870,000 annually. Some year we have good years can be $1.2 million, but some year can be lower. So that's the average dollar amount. This year we also budget for almost $2.7 million revenue from federal, state, or local. But this money kind of sort of like wash, right? You have funding for your project, you spend it, kind of you end of day you're going to have net result is zero, but the town fortunately able to receive so much grant, able to help us get our capital project done. It's, Sean, Public Work, Sean and Scott and their staff doing a very good job to secure all the funding for us. The town also receive a road impact fee. This collects through the permit related, as we have about $240,000 is dedicated to road maintenance, paving project, etc. And also we collect a road impact fee from franchise, like a garbage truck impact is about $84,000. The town also receive gas tax. There are two pieces of them. One is regular gas tax, and the other one, a couple of years ago, they have this SB1 funding for us. So average, we collect almost $500,000 for road, street related project. So, and we also collect revenue from recreation related program, childcare or other, the program recreation department offer. When we adopt budget, this number is adopt budget. So I just want to give this number so you're able to reference back for a budget book. But ever since then, in January, we also adjust our budget. Now the recreation department budget will be revenue collection about $800,000-ish because the COVID-19 impact, shelter in place, really they're not able to provide the service they normally do. So for library tax fund, the town collect $280,000. This fund dedicated for library program, especially children library, library related events. We support about 1.2 FTEs, and then other like supplies, internet service related to the library program. So the town also collect rental revenue from ICC, for the artist studio. We original budget $100,000. Now this money will be short because the town offered this revenue rent reduction for the artist. The town collect a rental revenue from Robeson House, have few office space rental out. We collect an average of $35,000. The town also received Measure A park open space tax. In normal year will be $90,000 to $100,000, but this year special, they're linked with sales tax related. So we are seeing a reduction in this revenue. Last year, the countywide passed this Measure C welfare tax. This number is adopted budget number when we adopt. So now actually this number is double because they are decide give another 20% to the town to help in, either fund the town related like defensible space or fire prevention related. So now this number is double, so which is very good news for us. For all this other funds, we have different measures. We have local measure, which is Measure D, sales tax. We also have Measure E, library tax. These two tax, they are expired all in 2024. So which is bring some challenge for us for future. And then the other county-wide measure is Measure A, park tax. I think last year they thinking about to go out to extend tax, but I'm not sure where they are right now. And the Measure C tax just passed, and then they now expire until 2030. So I think since Measure D is really helpful for the town for paving project, all the capital project related, so it's really important for us. Basically here, just to have a little bit of history, I took from the measure itself, the voter vote in 2013, and then have 10-year life, going to expire 2024. So, the purpose for this funding is for repair road related, and then have some facility or services. But they do have a oversight committee to monitor this fund. I think Sean and his staff bring the report to their committee annually or semi-annually. Here's the history, the tax collection, since the inception of the effect of the tax. For first year, it's only 3 months worth tax because they are effective April 1st, so it's 112,000. After that, the average, you can see like 800, 850. We have a couple very, very good years. This part tax is more for people if you buy a vehicle, right? You buy from San Rafael, but then the town get a piece of the use tax from the vehicle purchase. Or if you're more rich, buy bigger item, airplanes or boat, all those kind of stuff, will definitely benefit the town. And then sometimes when you do construction, if you have new building, the building materials, which is the use tax piece also located to our agency, so which is helpful. So this is why, even though sometimes like our sales tax revenue is only 1 million, but we can collect $870,000 basically, even though we don't have a store space, but people buy, use those kind of stuff in here, so we benefit from this. This is pretty much for sales tax, use tax, all the allocations, the percentage, how much the town's sales tax 8.75. For this 8.75 percentage, where all this money goes. For the town itself, we actually really get a small piece of the pie, right? Majority go to state, some local special tax, or the county related, right? So for the town, we are kind of receive a smaller, but it's very can have big impact for our town. It's about $1 million, but it's can make a huge impact to our town. So here has the slide showing our neighbors' jurisdictions. We are not the lowest, we are not highest, we are in the middle. So we have a couple, 4 of agencies, they're at 9%, we are a little bit behind, we are 8.75. So, and also again, some other agencies, their revenue source maybe not heavily rely on their sales tax. For example, Tiburon or Ross, they barely collect any because they don't have this kind of storefront to collect this tax. Maybe the tax rate lower or higher that not make much impact for their agency. So for this slide is new, I just insert this afternoon. So combined sales tax in California range can be 7.25% to 10.25%. Here's kind of repeat to the slide I showed you early, like the pie chart, how much go to state general fund, 3.9%, right? How much go to counties, health or corrections or safety related, transportation fund, city county general fund, and then the base for the state tax is 7.25. On top of that, for local transaction and use tax, you can have up to 3% combined. So the total range is 7.25 to 10.25. In California, we do have one exception. One city, when I do the research, Santa Fe Springs, they are 10.5. They exceed state cap by 0.25%. So just FYI. So for the San Samuel transaction use tax, the Measure D is only 0.5%. With the 3% range, right? So we took 0.5, and then Transportation Authority Marin 0.5, and then a smart and open space, they are, so for other agency beside the town, they already took 1% out of our share, right? So now the town only have 0.5. So I think the challenge is everybody try to grab a piece of pie of those, add-on sales tax, who's going first, who get most, then leftovers able to. So I think for all of advantage for the town, if we're able to grab more benefit, our local benefit, our community is better. Otherwise, this tax, eventually somebody going to raise the bar of the tax they're going to collect, but they're using more statewide or regional wide rather than benefit our own community. So maybe for our tax, not huge impact to other community, but a huge impact to our community. So every dollar count. So we really hope this measure can continue. Hope we can make some difference, either increase or extend this more. So we have other revenue opportunities when we look at our revenue structure. We look at our business license tax, right? We look at transient occupant tax or utility tax, business improvement tax, and a partial tax. Those kind of something we say maybe the town able to explore those kind of options. The area, focus on one area is business license tax. I'm not sure how many of you as a business owner yourself, when in the one or in the business come to the town, in town jurisdiction doing business, they required to pay this business license tax, right? The tax rate, how it's setting is required 2/3 voter approval. I think the last revision for the town business ordinance is 1993. So it's kind of a long time ago. So here's the tax table. The next few slides, I took this information from the draft report the town have. We work with the DHL, this consultant, try to look at our business license structure, look at our ordinance and say what we can do or what compare with other jurisdictions, say where area we can, either change the structure of the tax or, anyways, it's kind of explore what's our opportunities can change the business tax, bring more revenue for the town. So here's based on the gross receipt. And then if you look at it currently, our fee is really low. It's $15 for $0 to $7,500 gross receipt. For example, if somebody make a pretty low gross receipt, then we only collect $15, right? If we look at our neighbor jurisdictions such as Fairfax, they do have baseline tax, and then they also have a gross receipt. They have a combination structure. They also based on gross receipt. So minimum, they will collect $100, and then anything gross receipt they sell, they will add on the value. So they have a bigger business license revenue than ours. So
Helen, I think both Laurie and I have a question here. Laurie, you want to ask your question?
Sure, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't.
No, that's why we have that. Don't worry, it's all good. Laurie, go started. Yeah.
So can you go over again how we would go ahead and raise those fees? You said it has to be through a 3/4 or a tax,
2/3.
a vote
Yeah.
through who? All of us, the citizens?
The residents. Any tax changes has to go through the ballot measure. We can change it on fees. Fees are usually based on the cost of doing business. So we have a fee schedule internally that we do. We do it every 5 years. We do a study on it to make sure that we're recovering those fees for things that are being done by individual residents, mostly through planning and building. So we collect those fees and don't charge those to everybody. But taxes all have to be voted on, and business license is a tax.
Okay, even though it says fee right there on the schedule, it's not actually a fee, it's a tax.
Yes.
Well, that's just the amount. The fee meaning amount. It's a business license tax for sure.
Okay, so we would need to put that on a ballot in order to.
Right.
Okay.
And along the same line of Laurie's question, when we don't have yet here all the comparison with the other town, which we can work on that together. Was there any town nearby us that have been reviewing their license tax recently? Or like, because 1993 seems a long time, but what about the other town? Has it been done recently?
Yeah, so Sausalito, they just done 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically, you know, if you look at the before they doing the restructure, they are $600,000, right? Now they're 2019, they are 1.5.
Okay, so this is a slide here. Okay.
Right, and also business license tax, I think, have a couple of different structures. Some agency is business license tax. Some agency is called business license fee. When they call fee, they don't need to go through ballot. But when they call tax, it really depends on how you originally establish this kind of revenue sources. For us, it's tax. We are required to go to voter, but for maybe other agency, they might not call tax. They are maybe fees. Then they don't need to go to the voter. So just FYI, kind of things. So this kind of
Stanley, you had a question as well, right?
I do have a question, but Lori, are you done?
Thank you. First, if that brought up another question. So right now it does a tax. Can we add a fee on top of a tax?
Dave is saying no.
No, we actually we used to have an administrative fee. When I first got here, there was an administrative fee, and I'm looking at Richard for a little clarification here. And we actually, that turned out to be illegal. We can't charge a fee on a tax.
Nice try, Laurie.
Yeah, and I actually, I don't know of any business license fees. That's the first I've heard of that. So Helen knows something I don't, but I was wondering if Richard Bergson might be able to shed some light on that.
No, I'm not really sure about the legal issues with increasing the fee, but I did have a question if I could jump in. And I don't know, Helen, if you know, for example, for Fairfax, how do their fees compare for a business of a similar size to San Anselmo? I'm just wondering if we haven't increased this since 1993, are we way behind other communities for, you know, a comparable business or not? Do you happen to know?
So just for example, when I did have their fee schedule. For example, I based on the form, right? Their base fee. Sorry, bear with me. So for example, when they have retail service wholesale, their base fee is $100, and then they add on another gross fee based on the gross receipt, and then for example, between less than $10,000, the fee will be $6. So just say their lower bracket is $106, right? Compare with us $15. So that's
right. So right. But if you pick kind of a medium size or average or typical business, I don't know exactly what that would be, but just comparing, say, $200,000 of gross revenue for a San Anselmo business versus a Fairfax business.
So for Fairfax, a business license, $200,000 will be $225. Let me look.
Okay, and we're about 150, I think.
Right.
So that exercise, and I want to go to your question, Stanley, that exercise that we're not going to finish here, like to try to compare, is it something that has been done by the town at some point, or what's that? Because of course we can't do that on the fly, but there is definitely an interest here from like a majority of us say, hey, what about, can we compare? Is there a different structure? Dave and Helen, tell us when was the last time that kind of study was done, if anything.
Right. Actually, we have a draft report ready. We did work with the consultant, last couple of years, then the pandemic hit, then we paused. So if the group is interested, we can definitely bring the presentation in front of you to show you, then, you can ask all the questions. I think their report have more details, as the different options, how you can change, for example, we increase by percentage, right? Is one option, right? 20%, 40%, 60%, or we can have mixed model like the one Fairfax has. We have base fee $100, and then how you do. So I think have different model and the different comparisons. So if you guys are interested, and then I will reach out to them, see how long take them to get the PowerPoint ready. But the draft report is ready for us. So if you're interested, we can share with you and then bring back to next meeting if you like.
I want to let Stanley talk, and then I have a comment.
Correct,
after.
yeah.
I'll try the raise the hand function.
So let me ask my question. If any change to the business license tax has to be done by a ballot initiative, what is the cost to the town of running a ballot initiative?
That ballot issue, I will let Carla or the
we have our town clerk lurking in the shadows. How can
Okay, Miss Carla.
Because it's a cost benefit analysis, right? You're
Yeah.
going to increase taxes on businesses in town. And if we're not collecting any more money because of the cost of running the election, it's just a lose-lose.
I mean, it's complicated. It's either whether you go during an even numbered year and there's other jurisdictions that are on that ballot, then it costs about $2 a voter. We have close to like 9,000 voters here. If it is not, let's say we go on an unpopular date, it could be $7 to $8 per voter. So it can be very expensive, or it could not be. So
that could be something that we would have to timely plan for it and say, hey, there's some other stuff happening in that session, so maybe we can just get it at a time where it's kind of a cheap time to get it done, if we were aligned with that timing, right? Okay.
Right. You need to plan it out, have the money for it, and then you could make a more cost-effective decision on when to go. So.
Alexi, you had a question, right?
I do. I have a question about the 2/3 majority. Does that mean that the revenue collected from the tax goes into a restricted fund, or would it be in the general fund despite the 2/3 requirement?
Their general fund.
Yeah. All of our the business license tax revenue is just part of the revenue that comes into the general fund.
Okay, but regardless, it requires the restricted fund threshold.
Right.
Interesting.
Good question.
So if I could pipe in, Murray, if you wouldn't mind. So the business license program in general, you know, the town has a pretty old system. It's basically manual. We are able to run some of the applications, all the applications through our financial software. But we've been looking and kind of dancing around what a lot of towns have, which is an online hosted system where people can go in and get their license. And from that, we get a bunch of data that would be really helpful. And so we're looking at actually requesting to the council that we move forward in that. So that's kind of the first step, is to get us kind of up to date on that, because it truly is a paper process right now. So we're working on that. And I think hopefully there's an understanding on the council when we go that this is something that could really be beneficial. Our economic development committee utilizes data, and when we got into COVID, we actually kind of manually created a email list by having people call businesses in town, so we could send out information that was related to COVID and permissions and all that kind of thing. So to have this thing hosted would make our communication with the business community just really, really robust. So we're moving ahead with that. The next steps, I think, and I think this is a great thing for this to have as one of our agenda items, is I think we could, I suggest that we take a deeper dive on this business license and really do some crunching on, a little more about the different types of tax types, a little more on what what the other local jurisdictions are doing, and kind of pull this out separately, because it's something that it's really, really hard, obviously, to make changes to taxes. And we also want to make sure it's the right thing to do. This whole night is a little bit uncomfortable because we're talking about revenue enhancements. That's just to make us, have more resources to do a better job as a town. But it's also a difficult thing because everybody's, you look at your property tax bill and you're pretty heavily taxed, and sales taxes aren't fun either. So, but I think for this one in particular, I suggest that we pull it out from all the discussions we're having and kind of have another session where we get a little more into it, because we're not going to go to council until we really feel like we have a suggestion and recommendation. And it would be great if that recommendation came out of this body.
But it seems to also be that you had a consultant doing some work already. So
Yeah.
let's leverage that first.
Yeah.
And then let's go cheap. Let's look into that first. And after that, if we need to look more, then we can take it from there, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So maybe we bring that at the end of the meeting as an agenda item for another meeting. I'm going to put that aside.
Great. Thanks, Marie.
Okay.
Yeah, here's a comparison. Some agencies, basically, I think from their database, what their client is, some, Marin County, Larkspur is not their client, so they don't have the information available. So the next item will be transient occupancy tax, which is pretty much known as a hotel tax for people stay less than 30 days stay. That's the tax. For our town, we don't have this tax. I think the reason being we only have one hotel in a town. I think probably Dave know more history about it, and you want to talk about it.
The San Selmo only has, for a long time, it only had one. It still only has one inn, and I see that Benedetta will get to you during public comment for sure. There was an attempt, I think, in 2009 to potentially put something on the ballot, and it didn't go forward because it felt very punitive to that one organization. Since then, we've seen a big rise in short-term vacation rentals. You may have read recently that Novato has put together, I think a number of towns have put together short-term rental license programs where they're collecting fees, and also those registrations need to then pay that TOT. So it's expanded a bit in the scope. And it's hard for us to give an accurate prediction of what that would look like. I think we could probably run the numbers that might come out of the inn, but then the short-term rental program, it's actually something that's hosted and run and managed by an outside agency, but it is also a good way to make sure people are being legitimized when they're doing these short-term rentals. So there's sort of a secondary benefit. Mm-hmm. But we wanted to bring this up because it is something that I think maybe we're the only town in Marin that doesn't have it, but that's for a reason, as I said before. It's typically a 10% charge, and it's usually for hotels, motels, inns, and vacation home rentals, as it says there. So here's the list of kind of what is being charged in other towns and cities. It looks like Fairfax doesn't have one, which is interesting. They only have, I believe, one hotel as well.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, those kind of information, I look some website, they don't really have information online. So I'm kind of just Googled it, and maybe some of them, maybe not as accurate. So, but kind of, you get an idea. I think Fairfax, if I Google search, I think they pop up like 10%, but I'm not sure is an unincorporated area or is their town itself. So I could not find those kind of information on their website page. So I'm kind of just put in one I able to find. So for example, like Corte Madera, my Google search, they cannot find it. Then I went to their general fund revenue, then they have description there, say 10%, but out of 10%, 2% submit to the tourism bureau to, does this percentage include that piece of, it's two-part revenue. One piece belong to a local agency, the other piece belong to the county tourism.
Eric, you have a question, right?
Yes, Dave, have you had any conversations with Redlands University of how they're using their facilities?
We haven't, we haven't really taken any steps towards the TOT. We wanted to sort of bring it out to you today. It's not something that's on the front boiler. As I said, we've talked about it a number of years ago, but it is a potential revenue enhancement for the town. That's why we're putting on this list. And with that said, Marie, I thought maybe since we kind of we're going to go through all these different things, we do have somebody who wants to talk, I believe specifically on this issue. Yeah, so I don't know if you think this is a good time.
Yeah, we can absolutely have open comment right now.
Okay.
Of our special guest, Benedetto.
Benedetto, I'm going to allow you.
Go for it.
There you go.
Thank you. And I don't know if I missed the opportunity, good evening, everybody, to make a quick comment on the previous item as well.
No,
About can I do that now very briefly? Is that okay with you?
Yes.
Thank you. So I'm talking for the previous item, the business tax on behalf of the chamber. When I talk about the hotel tax for tonight, at least, I'll talk about my business personally. About the business tax, sincerely, whatever is going to be your decision, I think that is kind of, in politics, you say bad optics, to talk about the raise of the business tax when many businesses, mine included, has been forced not to operate for the last year because of COVID, seems kind of bad timing. We had to pay, I'm going to send out a check literally next week to the town for a tax. And last year I basically had zero revenues. And I'm sure my feeling is felt by many other businesses in town. We understand the town got to keep going. That money is going to the general fund is fine with me, absolutely. But to think about raising that now, again, I would, beside any other cost benefit consideration, that maybe the cost of putting that on the ballot will be more than what you collect, beside anything else. So I would really consider that. And I agree about what Dave said. Right now, we basically have an honor system that is great because people pay that anyway. So maybe to increase the efficiency of that collection might generate more than what an increase in the actual tax rate would do. So I would strongly encourage, to collect more. It's a great system now. We paid because we feel we had to pay. So improving that would be great. So please do consider that also because of the current timing and what business owners had to go through for the last year and for months to come, unfortunately. About the transit tax, as Dave said, it didn't pass in 2009 because it was punitive for one property only. I didn't own the hotel at the time. I have about 40 years experience in the hotel industry and what transit tax do to occupancy and to bring people or not to town. So I would seriously think about that. I understand the Airbnb that would generate business for the town, but if Airbnb properties then are taxed like an hotel, then my point of view, that is not what I would like to do. Then they got to obey all the rules of hotels. We have a lot of fire regulations, inspections by different entities all the time. So to me, as a business owner, it would be really unfair to pay the tax and be at competitive disadvantage because I have higher costs being an official hotel compared to a Airbnb. So, and again, I'm happy about Airbnbs. They bring people to town anyway, so I'm not against them, sincerely. And about the taxes now in Marine, I'll be very happy to provide a lot of data to you. I have a lot of data, historical data, and keep in mind that some of the municipalities that you list on the slide now actually pay that tax to the Marine Visitors Bureau, that is a county-run agency partially, and then they spend the money on supporting tourism to the county. And I was part of that program years ago, but then I realized that because San Rafael has the biggest component on the revenues, the agency, and that's okay, that's always the bigger guy rules, they would really promote San Rafael Hotel. So I would think about that as well. And as a matter of fact, Sausalito is not part of that program. They collect their own hotel tax and they promote their own town. So if you're going in the direction of doing the TOT, at least be sure to commit that money to the promotion of the town, to bring people to town. That would be okay. Even if it would make my hotel more competitive, more expensive, so less competitive to other towns in Marine. And, you know, the more, if they spend 14% more to stay at the hotel, they have in many cases 14% cash to spend in other businesses in town. So you might gain on the TOT, but you might lose in the sales tax that those people don't spend in town. But again, I'm very open to support any data and information you might have. I have 40 years of historical data of how occupancy tax have an impact of travel to different destinations. So please let me know. And thank you for listening to me tonight.
Well, that was very timely, and definitely thank you for calling in and giving us your input here. Do you have, or Dave, do we have a sense collectively about how busy, or do we have a lot of Airbnb type of activity in San Anselmo? Is it something we have a little bit of feeling about? Stanley, do you know? You are moving your hand? No?
So I'm sorry, I was
Richard?
on mute. We don't necessarily track that. I know.
Yeah, this is what yeah, exactly. I think you don't track, but
I know that our planning director kind of keeps the tabs on through Airbnb and VRBO, and he kind of keeps tabs on what kind of usage is going on, but nothing officially. So it's hard to really speak to. You know, I go on there occasionally too, just to see what's going on, but we don't at this point have no regulations around short-term rentals or short-term rental properties, so we therefore don't have any data. It looks like you have another person who would like to speak.
exactly.
Jennifer. Yeah.
Well, Richard's had his hand up too.
Oh,
though.
Richard, go.
Right. I just wanted to say, Dave, I know, I think about 5 years ago, there was consideration of regulating short-term rentals, and Elise did produce a memo. And at that time, I think she did a survey, or her staff did, and they estimated maybe 50 properties at that time. So that might be a little outdated at this point, but
Right.
but there was some discussion, you know, back then.
Okay.
I will check with her.
Okay. Is there anybody else from the committee that wants to speak before we turn it over to Jennifer? Okay.
Laurie has a question.
Jennifer, oh, Lori.
Yeah, sorry.
Jennifer,
Yeah,
you can
I just wanted to say that Benedetto, what he said about raising any taxes, I totally agree with that. I think if we do consider doing something like a business license tax or TOT tax, we do need to be aware that it can't happen for a couple of years, I would think, you know, until things get back to normal. So I just wanted to say that I think he has a very good point.
But what I'm thinking as well, Laurie, is that it seems that we will need a lot of time to analyze all of that, right?
Yes.
Plus getting it on the ballot, maybe like the best time might be in 3 years, you know what I'm saying? So it seems it's good to know the analytics. I come from the data world, and doing the analysis might take us, even basic analysis, like a year or something like that. So it's good to know the type of work we have ahead of us. I agree with you. The timing is not now, but we can start analyzing the data now, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Richard?
Right. Yes, thanks. I had one more comment. I also agree with something else Benedetto said, I believe, and that is, I think something like a TOT, if it were adopted, I think a significant portion of it should be committed to marketing the town or making improvements to the town. And it could perhaps be combined with other revenue sources. And so it could upgrade the overall vitality of the town and sales tax generation. So I would concur with that point.
Okay, if there's no more questions from the committee, Carla, do you want to unmute Jennifer? Okay, Jennifer, you can unmute yourself.
Or not? Jennifer?
Not Jennifer.
Well, we are ready for you. Are you ready for us?
I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Yes, there we can.
Thank you so much, Dave, Helen, and committee members. I'm Jennifer, and I am with the chamber. I'm speaking mostly from just something that I understand about TOT tax that I recently learned, which is that it's decided on within each city and town, right? It's between 10 and maybe 14% normally. San Francisco, it's 16%. And that all goes to the city or the town that is imposing that tax. My understanding from the Visitors Bureau is that they can sometimes get the additional 1% or 2% called an assessment that is added onto the TOT. And that Benedetto's correct, of course, Sausalito and Tiburon both opted out. But my understanding is that if you want to be a part of and to help to market your town along with the Convention Bureau and use their they have some really good marketing going on. It's only about 1 or 2%. It's the town, otherwise we wouldn't be talking about doing a TOT because the town wouldn't get any of that money if it all went to the Visitors Bureau, if you chose to participate in that program.
So what you're saying, Jennifer, is that what I'm hearing you say that if we're having a tax of 10%, 2% would go to the bureau and 8% to the town. Is it what your understanding is? Okay,
That's
got
my
it.
understanding. That's my understanding. And just another plug for the chamber. In other towns, the chamber gets some of this money. That's how they help fund the chambers. I believe that's true in Larkspur and many others. And we are the only town that does not have a TOT in Marin, and mostly a lot of other places. That's all. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Jennifer. Stanley?
Yes, I have a question. On the TOT, it sounds to me like in order to be not punitive to the one hotel in town, we would have to incorporate all of the short-term rentals, the Airbnbs and the VRBOs, which would necessitate, I believe, the council actually writing an ordinance that would somehow govern the operation of Airbnbs and VRBOs within town. And the tax itself would also be restricted to the 2/3 majority on a ballot. Is that true?
It seems you got that right?
Yeah. Okay.
That's a lot of work. Forrest?
Yeah, while we're talking about the TOT and everything, is it possible to license Airbnbs, VRBOs, short-term rentals, while imposing a fee upon that license, like $50 registration fee that's assessed every year or something like that, that's separate from both the business tax as well as this TOT?
I'll let Helen answer, but go ahead, Helen.
Yeah, I think actually today, in matter of fact, I just listened to one webinar. Pretty much, short-term rental, they are required for a business license, and then because they're run a business, then on top of that you can collecting the tax on over. Yeah.
But could a special fee be assessed that's kind of almost a bypass of the TOT, and it's kind of a similar, maybe it's not percentage based, but maybe it's a flat fee or something that's on top of a business tax, but just assessed on short-term rentals? I know San Francisco has every year you need to pay your $100 to register your Airbnb, and then on top of that, there's the TOT.
I think you probably just answered your own question. We don't know.
Thank you, Forrest.
I would imagine that, yeah, you'd be able to charge because they're, government fees are usually you need to basically recover your costs of doing that type of business. So in my guess is yes, there would be an allowance for a registration fee separated out from the actual business license operational stuff, that tax. Mm-hmm. So, but we can look into that. If we get farther into this, we're going to be diving into all these we haven't, because we haven't considered these in great detail. We wanted to lay them out there and see which ones are probably worthy of further discussion, and that's what we're hoping to walk away with tonight.
So if I could just add on.
Yep, go for it.
it sounds to me like a business, an Airbnb operating within the town is a business that is already would be subject to a business license.
And we do have rental properties that pay business licenses. And I think that also includes Airbnbs. I don't know that for sure. Helen might know, and I know Elise would know because she's on here too.
Right.
Go ahead, Helen.
Technically, they are required, but the things, you know, for our finance division, we only have 2 staffs.
Yeah.
So for the town, have no way we're able to enforce this. So like Dave mentioned earlier, it's owner system, right? So, you know, for example, even the business license itself, because
so you could create a form letter, go on to Airbnb and see everybody that's listing a property in San Anselmo and send them a letter.
Well, that's basically what Elisa's done in some of her work, and I saw that she just had her hand up, but she took it down. I'm wondering if you could allow her to talk, Carla. I guess I can too.
Hey, hi everyone.
Yeah. Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Is my, can you hear me talking at all?
Yeah, we can hear you.
My connection's bad or yours is bad. Yeah, I just wanted to say that, yeah, we do have a list from 2015 that would need to be updated, but a lot of them are still the same. We had about 61 people on that list at the time. And I think I've only had about 3 business license forms run past me for Airbnbs. But we do tell people when they ask that a business license would be required because they're conducting we consider it a residential use, but if they're generating income from renting it out, technically they should have a business license.
We'll send the list to Forrest. Forrest is going to go and speak personally to all of those people and bring their money back. Thank you.
I'll just go door to door. I don't need a letter.
That's fine. And hey, people, we know you.
So what's the penalty for not having a business license?
None, right?
Yeah, I don't think we necessarily ever get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there may be a penalty. That's.
You know, for people, if by the book, if people do turn in their, you know, pay their business license late, we do have penalty access. But if they never come forward, we don't have the manpower to go after them. Then that part of the money left on the table for sure. Yeah.
Elise, did you have your hand raised again?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
Are we good to go to the next topic? I think so.
Go ahead, Helen.
Yeah. Next area will be utility user tax. So this basically imposed by city, you know, here's the definition for utility service related. For the Marin County, actually only one agency has it, is Fairfax. For those kind of type of tax, as many of them have this tax a long time ago, maybe in 1980s, 1970s. For Fairfax, I think it's 1986. So they have up to, I got this information from website, but I did send an email to their finance director. They come from like up to 5% instead of 4%. Here's a typo right there. So they are also required 2/3 voter approval. I think this one is, it's not as many agency, you know, that in this area has it, or probably is some area we can definitely explore if we you know, get direction from the committee. So we also have a business improvement district. This is pretty much you can levy the tax or fees based on special area. For example, can be downtown business districts, or you know, you kind of impose those kind of tax from the either business owners or to benefit for promoting the business. So this is not saying we're going to do it, just kind of there's another options, you know, if we really want promote certain area, we can have those kind of fee or assessed. So
Helen, do you have an example of that, like in Marine, so that we can relate to that? Dave,
I believe San Rafael has been seen.
Okay, this is what I'm thinking. Is it that? Okay, something like that.
Right. Also, Novato has one.
Okay.
And also back to again the property tax. We also have other property tax partial tax options, right? For you know, unrestricted use purpose or have special purpose, like a memorial park tax measure, right? Those kind of type of things. You for special purpose, they all require voter approval. So here we just open to the group, and the other revenue options you guys can think about it. So we can definitely take notes down, and then we can, if we be interested, we can have more discussion in the future. So.
Eric?
Hey, I don't know if this is the right time to bring it up, but you know, we're talking about all these taxes that bring in, you know, small incremental revenue generation. I'm wondering what it would take to do a study on selling Robeson House. Is that something we can legally do from the point of view of the people that gave it to us? But you know, with property values going up, the property tax would be $35,000 a year on that property, and that's all we're getting in use taxes. So,
right. The answer is, you know, we do have you know, restrictions on what we can do up there based on the gift, and I know there's been some talk of it in the past about that being a, you know, potential source of revenue, either ongoing or through an outright sale. I can tell you that it died pretty quickly from the standpoint of losing parkland in town. You know, we have so little of that now that it didn't get any traction. But I think there was a determination at one point that because of the amount of time that has passed since the gift was made, that it would probably pass legal muster to actually to do something with it. And I have that somewhere. I don't have it in front of me. But like I say, this has been brought up throughout time. There's been that. There's been, you know, can we sell Isabel Cook, any of our properties to, and that's, you know, and I think the opinion has been that, you know, you don't give up public space because you never get it back. Yep. There was a small school on the corner of Elm and San Tomas Avenue that was kind of a pie-shaped lot, and you know, and the school district ended up selling it, and there's a bunch of houses there now, and that would have been an amazing little pocket park, you know. So I get the feeling that everybody came out with, that it's not worth the you know, the financial gain that you'll get at that one point.
Yeah, you know, I just thought with the fact that Creek Park now has this great opportunity to become a real focal point. You know, we have Imagination Park already. Maybe we could do a very small park at the lower area of Robeson, and then put all the money into Creek Park, and then maybe do a permit abatement for any building improvements done along the creek. That way, just make, you know, the back of the buildings look horrible on Creek Park. And if you're going to spend millions of dollars building Creek Park, let's make the buildings look better. And actually, you know, you're going to want to look out onto the park once, you know, those buildings are improved. So,
right.
So I just wanted the appetite's different, you know, different people in town now. But of course, it is a sticky situation. For sure.
It is. Yeah. But we got to, you know, we always, like tonight, I just want to reiterate that we are just we're not recommending anything. We're just bringing out these opportunities, and you know, I know you know, a lot of them have some controversy attached to them, you know, but on the other hand, you know, we need to be prudent about, you know, making sure that we're doing the right thing with, you know, not only the existing taxpayers' money, but that we're collecting what we should be collecting. You know, we're not looking to get out there and, you know, just try to find money so we can pay for more stuff. We're kind of taking a look at these things that other towns are doing, and moving forward with whatever at the end of this meeting, whatever we feel like we want to dive a little deeper into. So I'm hoping we're kind of at that point in the meeting.
Definitely, yeah, and I like. Thank you for bringing the idea of selling properties, Eric. That's definitely one idea, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. What else? Do we have any other ideas? Richard, you always have plenty of ideas. No?
Oh, well, one point I wanted to make was, well, first of all, I looked at the list. I think we pretty well covered what most cities, which are general law cities, are even allowed to do. It's just to make the distinction clear. San Francisco is what's called a charter city, and they have a lot more flexibility to create all sorts of taxes, as you know. So as a general law city, we're somewhat limited in terms of what we can do.
Thanks for making that distinction, Richard.
Sure.
So it's always somewhat weird to compare us to San Francisco anyways, but just based on the size. I had a couple of follow-up questions around the sales tax and sort of Measure D, if now is an okay time to do that. My understanding was that there was actually a 9% cap on sales tax, and in your presentation, it seemed to indicate that there was actually, a 10.5% cap. And I'm not exactly sure I can cite where I heard 9%, but I was under the impression that there was an initiative Bay Area wide that was trying to increase, and so maybe it's a jurisdictional thing, but trying to increase the sales tax that, in order to go past that percentage, it requires, an extra special, like California legislature needs to approve it or something. So does that sound right, make sense, or am I completely off base there?
Let me take a stab. To tell you the truth, Forrest, up until we started doing this research, I thought it was 9 as well. And I think that probably was 9 for a long time. But Helen dug it up, and I don't know if that was something that we were misinformed, I was misinformed on, but it turns out that, Helen went in and found that there is an actual raised cap that's higher than that. So I think 10.25 is what we're allowed to go up to now.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. So that brings up a question about the sales tax. Measure D, as you see, is set to sunset in 2024, as is the library parcel tax. So that's unfortunate that we didn't have the foresight to kind of separate those and stagger them. So we're going to have to deal with what to do there. And one of the thoughts is, with Measure D, which I think is, I think was that the one that was in March, Helen?
Yeah.
Yeah. So to hit the general election, we would really need to look at 2022 at this point to get that $2 per voter cost. But it's also kind of a good situation because because we have that capacity. I had been working under the assumption up until recently that we had an extra 0.25% that we could potentially look at adding on to the renewed Measure D. It would be a new measure letter, obviously. And I know I've had discussions with Alexis about it and some other folks about, what we did with Measure D is said, we promise that we're going to put this money towards roads and infrastructure and drainage really clearly. And, but we were able to do it in a way that allowed us to stay within the general tax voting threshold, which is 50+1. And I think we got 70 something. It was not a problem because people knew that we needed this money. If we're going to do anything in the world of capital, we need that money. Well, here we are, with a pretty good track record of using that money sort of in the way that we had promised. Well, if we're going to come up on a renewal, why wouldn't we look at potentially adding on what I thought was that 0.25%? And, whether I think Alexis had some thoughts on how we might be able to fund some climate change, some improvements around what we do for climate impact, there's all kinds of needs, So that's one thing we might want to kind of pull out of this meeting and come back and really talk about. What might that look like? And whether we feel brave enough to go out for an expanded tax, or do you just want to go out and renew it? There was an exploratory committee back in 2000, and whenever we did this, 2012 maybe, and it was that committee made the recommendation to go for the tax, and it was a financial advisory board a committee at that point, but it was a limited time ad hoc committee. So that might be a good thing for us to discuss and sort of make some headway on something we might want to then bring to council for a discussion and maybe a recommendation from this board. So that's what I'm hearing. I think, that's sort of an obvious one that we're going to need to start talking about sooner than later. If we're talking about going, to the ballot in 2022, this is the time we start,
This is
making.
almost now, right?
Yeah, no question.
Stanley, you have a question about that?
Well, not about that.
Something else.
But I have a question. Yeah, I have a question and a comment. And the comment is on the selling of town assets. I know it's a bit of it's like a sugar high. I mean, you can get like an immediate rush on that, but the long-term consequences of losing an asset, I don't know, I kind of outweighs the short-term benefit. There may be a point in time where you need to do that just because you're up against the wall, but I don't think we're there yet. So my question is, Helen, you kind of went really quickly over the utility users tax. Is that really something that is possible? And what kind of scope are you talking about? How much could actually be raised in that kind of a tax? And then would that again have to go 2/3 vote, like on water, garbage, cable, and it would be specific on like cable or cell phone, and we could get 4% of everybody's cell phone bills? I mean, is that what we're talking about?
Right. So for this tax, I didn't really look into in much detail. Kind of say what option we have. I think based on the Fairfax number, they're able to collect around $230,000 annually. So we are kind of similar jurisdiction. If we have similar tax, probably around that.
Now, what is Fairfax taxing though with their 4%?
Let's see. Let me find the information. The taxing on gas, electric, and the telephone.
Well, nobody has a telephone anymore.
Let me.
And then, now they have about 5,000 less residents than we do, so there's going to be a little bit of a bump in whatever if we ever looked at that. But I also need to point out, and it's sort of obvious, that anything that we do would be passed right on to the user. This would not be absorbed by the utility company. So keep that in mind. People would be choosing to use that as a way to get the towns more money, but it will come right out of their pocket. So it's not wide. Obviously, Fairfax being the only town in Marin that does it, it's not a widely used, but I think it makes sense because it's, the utilities, there's a lot of wear and tear in our town from utilities, even though this is money that's coming from the users. It's hard to sort of reconcile that, I guess.
I'm not sure if that is their towns or municipal code talk about their basically telephone, gas, and electric tax. So actually, I look at again, they are collecting $350,000 annually.
350.
Thank you.
Stanley or Forrest? Stanley, you want to keep going? It's follow up?
No. It's with more residents. And again, if you targeted cell phones.
That could be up to 500K, right? $500,000 just there.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, that's all I had.
Yeah, I can share their municipal code with you guys if you're interested. Yeah.
Forrest?
Sure. I just want to sort of say that the Sustainability Commission talked about the potentiality of a utility users tax, and specifically taxing natural gas or something that kind of tax the thing that you don't want. And the conclusion that we came to is that it's a particularly regressive type of tax because it, really hits people that in a slightly, maybe it's close to flat or something like that, where but it's similar to sales tax in that way, but because it's taxing this thing that like you're using and you use to, heat your home or use to keep your, refrigerator cold in the electrical gas kind of way. It struck us as like kind of a slightly distasteful method of raising funds in a way that sales tax or parcel tax or something like that is a little less distasteful. That's
that's distasteful. Yes, I like that.
Well, all taxes are distasteful to somebody.
That's the truth.
Right. I have a question about Measure D. Is it possible to consider putting two measures on the ballot, for instance, continuing it at the current rate and then separately increasing it, just so we don't risk scaring people off too much with a 1%?
I actually thought about that. And yes, you can always do it. It's just you run the risk of a bit of confusion. But yeah, certainly.
Isn't that what Tam District is trying to do? Because like they had like something on the ballot last time that was whatever they had plus 8%, and they decided not to do it again with one plus the other one on top. I'm not so familiar with how successful those twin measures are going, as opposed to the one with when you increase that. We'll have to look into that, right?
Yeah, we're looking at that. I think we'll certainly. It sounds to me like it's obvious that we need to come back and bring a lot more detail on both. We've talked about the business license information, taking a deeper dive on that, and also on what the options for the re-upping of Measure D. And we can ask that question as part of that. So if there are any other those kinds of questions that we can get ready for our next meeting, let us know, and this would be a good time to do that.
I have a question about oftentimes when you start down the road of a proposed tax, you get all these poll calls and, how do you feel about 98? How do you feel about $112, et cetera? Is there anything like that, but before you actually get to is there any sort of outreach that we could do that would help us figure out, what is the appetite for a sales tax? What is the appetite for utility user tax, in a kind of scientific, somewhat rigorous way?
I don't think that we have any in-house capacity to do something. I think that, to get a real answer, you need to pay for those scientific polls. And as you well know, we do have, the ability to do, much simpler, less scientific polls, such as SurveyMonkey or something along those lines, and those are rife for people, potentially trying to, do something to sway the vote. And it's really hard for us to kind of avoid that. So, but there's lots of companies that would provide. I think if we were going to take a serious run at any of these, we'd have to probably invest a little bit in those polls. I think it's just sort of standard operating procedure. Unless we have a graduate student that could kind of take this on as a project, honestly, it's something like that who could really set it all up where, it's authentic and there's, individually tracked responses and it's random and all those things that come along with a poll like that.
Right. Well, and I guess my question is, where would the polling fit into this process? Is it sort of typically to me, it seems like it's, after a path has already sort of been started down and it's tweaking the numbers or whatever.
I think for something like this, if we're looking at the fall of 2022, we would need to kind of, do some more work at this level and at the staff level before anything goes to council. And then there would be a council sort of informational discussion. And, it wouldn't be until the council decides to move forward that we would kind of put a Gantt chart together for moving forward with all the different pieces that need to happen. It would be, it'd probably be in the early side of that. You know, you don't want to wait. We have plenty of time right now. If we're really, that's why I like that we're talking about it in February of 2020 and 2021. It gives us a little bit more runway. So, you know, we could be to council in June with, you know, some of these ideas, you know.
Yeah. Forrest, do you still have a question?
Yeah, it's just like a little bit of a curiosity question, but why did it fluctuate so much? And I think it was like in 2015, 2016, it was significantly higher. I know that there's the first year that was very, very short, but it was significantly higher. Is this like, I mean,
let me give you the short answer and the careful answer. Helen's laughing. There could have been someone in town who made a large purchase.
Gotcha.
Yeah. 2 years that happened.
Good enough as an explanation.
Yeah. Is that good, Helen?
Yeah. Thank you.
So I guess what I'm taking away from this is that we want to look harder at, take a deeper dive on business licenses and what options we have for the sales tax measure, and kind of reconvene and really dive into those two things. Was there anything else that the group thought we would want to look at? I know there was some talk about the TOT, and you know, we only have so much capacity. That's something that could happen at any time. I think there's a little bit more time sensitivity around the two that I mentioned, especially the Measure D, but even the business license. We'd really like to kind of get straightened down. As I mentioned, we're looking at a software system that's going to be super helpful. And I think Benedetto nailed it, that we're going to get more compliance on people paying their business licenses if we make it easier. So I think, you know, it's just a matter of taking that first step and getting ourselves all tuned up and ready to launch that, which we've been successful. We've done that in a number of different systems through the last 10 years. And I think this is something we've been talking about for a long time. So it's time we kind of get a proposal together. So, and then part of the deep dive that we'll take with you guys will be sort of a presentation on that report that Helen had mentioned as well, which is kind of the first step towards looking at if we want to even look at getting the business license fee structure, tax structure updated. So that's a bigger, so it's kind of two pieces. It's getting our in-house work more efficient, and then the second piece would be whether or not we want to, you know, kind of update that. I mean, you know, it's coming up on 20 years old.
I'm going with that. With this, so this new application that you're talking about, this new software, will we also be able to have, let's say after 6 months, some kind of more better data that we can do some simulation about what it could look like if we were changing our model? Because right now it seems that we don't have a lot of data. You don't know completely yet if you could get that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that. Okay. I'm sure we would be able to have much better data to then do some simulations.
Okay.
I don't know if that happens within the software. But we could certainly will have the ability to filter all kinds of great information. Once it's probably going to take a year to get everybody's information in the system, but that certainly will be something that we'll be able to benefit in a myriad of ways from once the systems. It's just not going to happen right away. Okay. It's going to take people entering.
So let's start that now so that we can.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what we're thinking. That's what we're thinking.
Okay. Thank you.
Good. Well, does that sound about right, Marie?
Yeah, I heard the same thing as well. And if someone wants to add something, but I think we have two meetings coming up with those 2 items, 2 separate meetings, because it's where we focus on, you know, like working sessions, and then we'll take it from there. And something else come up, then we discuss that at our next meeting, right?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay. So is it?
Right. Marie, I just wanted to add, if I could. I also help out with the Economic Development Committee, and one of the tasks there is looking at a business improvement district. And so when we have something together with that, I'm working with Elise on that, we can bring it back to this committee.
That would go nicely with the BID, right? Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I also want that we have the request for future agenda items. We had a routine last year to meet at the end of every, at the last Thursday of every month. Then we fell off a little bit the wagon between December and January because we've just too much going on. Are we okay to go back to these monthly meetings, or what's the cadence that's going to be good for you, Dave and Helen? Because if this is too often, you can't really feed us.
Right.
So tell us what you need as well, right?
Okay, yeah, as a reminder, we originally had put this meeting together as a quarterly get together, but we're feeling like I thought we did a great job in the fall getting all the information in an orderly fashion to you guys, and then brought you together. And I wanted to let everybody know that the council approved the joining of the sales of the pension obligation bonds with Central Marin that you guys did. So that's underway, and I think that's going to be a huge benefit. But I'm feeling like, I think, yeah, if everybody's amenable, we stay with the monthly. Now I'm looking at Helen. Helen's one person short in her department. We're hoping to fill that position pretty soon. But I think we could, we might want to start with the business license. Or actually, which one would make more sense, Helen, as far as getting all the data together for a meeting in March?
So I'm probably going to reach out to their consultant, see whether their schedule can able to fit us. And then probably I think that would be easy one because the information is there. As long as the schedule matching, so we should be okay.
Put this one first, then one with less work for you if you are, understaffed right now. We can start with that one.
And then maybe in April, the one thing that we should talk about as well is, we had dreamed of having this group join together with the Capital Program Monitoring Committee every spring to look at the CPM, to look at the capital, the plan, the 7-year plan, just because it has a lot of sort of synthesis with the budget, with finance. So April, we may have, what I'm worried about, and the reason I'm saying that is we're trying to make that happen, and I'd like to institute that as something we do every year. I know it's hard for Public Works to even get that meeting together because there's so much going on this time of year, but I just think we have to. But I don't want to push the discussion about the Measure D too far out, because if we're wanting to get to council, so I guess my comment would be, okay, I think it's probably prudent to get that business license discussion together for March, just because we do have a
March 25th, in exactly 4 weeks. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then I think I really feel like we need to meet in April over the sales tax. But I also, the CPMC may just have to be an extra meeting if everybody's willing. I really think that's something that I'm going to push for and make something that we talked about since before this committee was even formed. That's and Richard's on both, and I think that there's a lot of synergy by having at least the Financial Advisory Committee hearing everything and asking questions. And along those same lines, we develop the budget this time every year. We try to get it to council for review in May, but it'd be also a good, maybe that's something we could, there's a lot that I'm excited to have this group, but I also worry that we're going to force too much on you. So I wanted to touch on that too. Helen, when do you think would be a good time? Would that be maybe that May meeting?
So I'm wondering if like May, I kind of wanted to present to the committee before go to council, at least you guys have a chance to chime in. So we're planning for the council first hearing is on the 25th. I'm just wondering, for example, like May 6th, or, if you guys prefer Thursday, sometime maybe not like last week.
Or maybe May 13th would be, I think
we might have 2 meetings in April, right? One for the sales tax and one with the other committee, and then 2 weeks later or something like that. We kind of stagger a little bit them every 2 weeks for. We're gonna
have our foot on the accelerator. So
and then we take the summer off or something like that. You know what I'm saying? It's just not.
So the meeting for the budget piece, I'm thinking is more combined with the capital group, because it will be operations budget, capital budget together. So at least you guys have a chance to look at it and have some input on there.
So that's what you were thinking about the budget is that piece of it. Okay. I thought, okay. So that's something we can do. And maybe that does move in May. Sean would like probably a little bit more time to prepare as well. So we're talking about a March meeting for business license.
Yep.
An April meeting for sales tax.
Yep.
And potentially an early May meeting for the combined meeting that includes the budget. Is that what you're thinking, Helen?
Mm-hmm.
Do I have that? Okay. So that's,
and then you will let us know about the date in May. It's still like 2.5 months ago. Yes, Stanley? Stanley?
Well, I just have a question or actually a comment on the next month's meeting on the business, deep dive into the business license. I would like to see some discussion or some look at enforcement of these business licenses, because it looks like you guys are leaving a lot of money on the table. So if you're going to talk about raising it, how about just collecting what's already there?
Good point.
A part of the forest going around with knocking at the door. I kind of.
You can send a letter. I mean.
Yes, no, you're right. Yes. You know, what can be done and try.
That's a great point. We'll include that.
Yeah, let's put that there as well. Okay, so we're going to be busy.
Yeah, we are.
We're good, right? So is there any, I just want to make sure, do we have any public still with us, or just to call for any other agenda items, or are we good to wrap it up?
We don't have any hands raised. We still have 4 public members, but no.
Okay, but no hand raised at this point, so we're good. So is it the time to adjourn, or do we have anything, any other business to run? I think we're good, right? We have our next agenda for the next like 2.5 months, and we are clear to go. So I suggest we adjourn the meeting, and we talk to in exactly 4 weeks on March 25th at 6:30.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Sounds good. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.